Alright. Welcome back to Nick Lenz's Doctor Who Review, episode number 113. We're here reviewing the third story of not only the Fifth Doctor's but also the third story of season 19. Khanda. It's a 4-part story set in a jungle. The story was originally written to be a story for Tom Baker, not Peter Davidson. So what did the actors do? Did she go on vacation like any other actors would? No, she went shopping. Yep, she went shopping. Throughout almost the entire freaking shoot, she let you go shopping. I'm gonna think she could get a paycheck back then, but that's what she did, went shopping. I probably just didn't go to a bookstore or something like that. So, we start out. Now, by the way, this story here is also, well, it's already for two major things. Aside from Bailey appearance by Nyssa in the story. Okay, it's the first appearance of a creature known as the Mara. First of 2 times it appeared on the show. That was also briefly mentioned in the episode Time Crash. The other, it is the only story featuring Peter Davidson, no TARDIS interior. Which, that is interesting. Because at a certain point during, like, Swiss McCoy's era, we don't even see the interior. Which, yeah, I heard some writers found the interior scenes be boring. That's why they stopped doing them. As the reason in show why they couldn't do it, I have not found the reason for that. So basically, Tegan is near this area with these weird-looking chimes, and Doctor keeps hitting them. And then Tegan falls asleep because she's so tired. Which Doc knew nothing about what the heck these things are. As a matter of fact, these chimes will appear again until like the 4th episode of this story. And then we come to this base on this planet. Now, this sounds very similar to other Doctor stories. We have these space people possibly from Earth. They come to the jungle planet and, well, they refer to the indigenous species as savages. And there is something on the planet they just do not understand, and they're very hostile toward them. This is a common trait in pretty much a lot of Doctor Who stories involving jungle planets. Now, in the case of... you're probably thinking, did this happen in Star Trek? Where the indigenous population referred to is basically like savages, where they're pretty much indifferent. Maybe once or twice. Doctor Who did this a little bit more than they did. And it's revealed in the story here that the male population of the species, the Kinda, which is also the name of the episode, they don't speak. For some reason, yeah, they don't really speak in the story except for one, it occurs, who is one of the fathers of the girl in the story, who I read she actually went to school with Sarah Sutton, aka Nyssa. Except they do not share a scene together, despite the fact they're kind of near each other in the final part of the story. I would have thought, though, they would have walked up and says, "Hey, do I know you?" But no. For some weird reason, they chose not to do that for some weird reason. I don't know why in the world that was. I mean, you bring a woman in this story here who went to school with one of your actors, and you don't have them interact. Doesn't that find it kind of weird? Yes. So we basically have this lieutenant named Hinders, where he is slowly driven insane by the end of it. He is nuts. To the point where he's making a city out of cardboard. The commander, on the other hand, it's like, yeah, don't think for some weird reason. can't get a response out of him. It's like you can't get any thoughts out because the way he's written is like only his opinion matters, nobody else's. So how the Doctor meets him is quite weird. We have this weird contraption, only appears in the story here, where it's like it's controlled by the mind. Yes, it's this rectangular box. You think, oh, it's like TARDIS. No, it is not like TARDIS at all. I mean, it looks like something you could definitely find in the movie Avatar, given how insane this thing looks. Whereas it's controlled by your mind, and you have to be afraid to use the damn thing. Now, they do mention that there was actually a bunch of people on this exhibition besides, like, 3 people that were there at the base. Where they have disappeared. It's not really clear what happened to them. Either they died, or they just ran away. It's never explicitly explored in the story. So, I love... Now, here's the thing. Janet Fielding loves the story. Purely because it gave Tegan something to do. And gave her sort of an arch nemesis in the story. With the Mara. It's not referred to as the Mara until like part 4 of the story. Where she's in like this mindscape. And she's like this throughout most of the story. Because outside she's asleep. Where comes across 2 people who look like they're playing a version of Space Chess. And they think she's an illusion, so they disappear. But they do have marks on their arms. And then she interacts with a guy who looks like he's out of Queen Elizabeth era. Which, after some convincing, like, oh, let's have multiple Tegans here. Which I'm sure Janet Fielding probably liked the fact that she got a chance to play herself many times. I'm sure there's probably some special effects basically doing this, like some mirror tricks, whatever. And when it's like, 10 of them and they merge all into one, it's like, hey, let me basically take care of your body briefly. And she does, and then passes one to Kinda, who becomes kind of the main villain of the story. Yeah, and they have this blind woman who apparently is like... Oh, and also they also have a thing where... Oh, they captured 2 of the tribesmen. Because apparently that's standard procedure for capturing people. Which to me makes no freaking sense at all. And I do have a theory of why in the world they couldn't have these actors speak in the episode. Like, all the male actors, with the exception of the Doctor, Adric, the base commander, and the one other guy, with the exception of these 4 people, my guess is either the actor, the people that brought in to be the Kinda, the male Kinda, either these people are not actors, or so they basically save time by not giving any dialogue at all, or they probably thought the dialogue they were given frickin' sucked. But I have no idea what it was. Why in the world the other male Kinda could not speak at all. They have a guy called Trickster, who basically just performed tricks. Yeah. I do like the whole psychological stuff related to this story with the whole thing, the mantra. We ends up possessing one of the tribesmen who ends up like, oh, let's make a thing that have sticks to battle the machine that's brought from space. Oh yeah, I mentioned 6 seasons, so I'm guessing 18 months. Yeah, away from my ship, and of course, also hit is like, oh yeah, let's try to blow up the frickin' base. The commander comes back after going out in this machine here, and he comes back and he's different. Where he opened the box, and then later on the Doctor and Todd, this woman named Todd, who's Dr. Todd, and I've read that apparently they describe her as a very, very attractive woman, despite the fact this woman was 40 at the time. Though she did look a little bit older. I did not get apparently there was many actors that were going to be approached to this role, but the actress who got the role was someone they just chose. Also, apparently, the guy who played the Commander Sanders, he apparently became, get this, he's also noteworthy for being the first Oscar-nominated actor to appear on Doctor Who. Interesting. Um, by the end of the story, Mantra is defeated by the mirror trick. Yeah, let's basically use the Medusa effect, basically, where, like, oh, Medusa can't look at her reflections. Let's have the Mantra look at its own reflection, and grows to like a snake creature, and then presumably you have Tegan acting really weird, which that is a possible setup for the creature's return in the next season of the show. Which I find that weird. Like, you have a season 20, and my guess they brought back this character because the story was very popular. I would have brought in the Centaurids, because next season included, because this season they brought back the Cybermen basically 2 stories after this one, and they brought in the Master next season. Yeah. But this story was very interesting. Also, by the end of it, after Henry's looks at the box, he's perfectly normal. And then, of course, Dr. Todd proceeds to recommend this place for be uninhabitable. It is by far a very weird story. Adric doesn't get a lot to do in the story. He basically is stuck at the base, because he sort of betrays the Doctor again, though he ends up basically siding with them, per se, by speaking his mind. Now, it's not like the last couple stories where he's betraying the Doctor. This one, he just works them because he's smart. Yeah. It's kind of sad, though, this is the second last story I'm covering with him in it, because next story will be his last story. So, overall, of course, this, like I said, it's the third Fifth Doctor story. For Adric at this point in time, this was actually his 8th story. For Nyssa, this Bavic appearance is kind of one of the appearances. This is actually her 5th story. For Tegan, this is her 4th. Yes, her 4th ever story. Yep, but not much else to say about the story. It's good. It's good. Mostly put, the best things about the story is the mantra itself. Looks okay. I'd say the Doctor, Tegan are really well written in this story here, and the actors do a really good job. The girl who is Sarah Sun's classmate, she did a pretty decent job in the story for a guest star character. But if you want to think is the most useless character story, like in the story, Adric. Yeah, he's pretty much useless. It's kind of interesting though, the fact that he leaves 2 stories later. Apparently, I don't know much about Matthew Warch how he felt with the story, but David Davidson loved the story. Apparently, the crew who shot this story, they hated the jungle set because they used the studio stuff. But that's all right, anyways. There's not much references to previous stories per se, like the last one. But I gotta say, this feel like it's definitely a step up from Forward to Doomsday, which I felt so far, of all the ones I've watched, that's the weakest story I've seen for season 19 of the show. For story-wise. Yep. So yeah, that's particularly a particular video. Please make sure to like, comment, subscribe, turn notifications. The very next video discussing is going to be the final story for this series. Next episode of this one will be discussing the final story for season 19 of the show, Black Orchid. And it's also the shortest story of the whole season. I'll explain about that in the next episode. Okay, next video. Bye.